Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jared Hornbeck, a punch doll in silk pajamas, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. But I am not the only one who is sitting on the shelves of this creepy old house. Who's here with me?
Well, I'm a childlike, innocent man, Steve Guntley, and this is the podcast. It's all about doll transformations, toy soldier firing squads, and teddy bear maulings. That's because this is the episode all about Stuart Gordon's Dolls from 1987. We're excited to be talking about this for a couple reasons. First of all, we always love an opportunity to talk about Stuart Gordon. We also get a very early example of Charlie Band's fascination with tiny terrors, and we are
Oh,
also
yeah.
closing the book on a very special chapter of this podcast. We're talking about the final film in the Arrow Video Empire of Screams box set, which both Jared and I have been dorking out about for a while. And to
Mhm.
that effect, I think we have a pretty appropriate guest for this episode. Who's here with us today?
Well, we do have a guest. She's the owner of Black Mansion Films. She's produced movies like The Ranger, Sacrifice Game, Real Life and Ghastly Death of Al Adamson, and definitely all kinds of extras for Kino, Severin, Shout Factory, and the Empire of Screams box set as well. I'm talking about Heather Buckley. Heather, what's up? Thanks for taking the time to join us.
Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to talk about Dolls because I think it's a really underseen, unloved classic.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I
with
think
you.
we would
I,
agree on
I've
that.
I've really kind of warmed on this movie over time. I think I was a little underwhelmed by it the first time I saw it, but rewatching it again, it's just like, you know what? There's a lot about this movie that's really super charming, and I think it does deserve a little bit wider of an audience. How did you first come to this movie in particular, or I guess in low budget horror in as a genre?
Let me think about that because it might have been something that was on cable. I don't think it's something that I rented. I used to go to video stores all the time, mom and pops, before Blockbuster killed them all. And that's sort of
Mm.
a treasure trove of looking at everything. It's totally correct when people say that Tubi are the VHS stores of the day.
Oh yeah.
Because
Oh,
there's stuff that
100%.
that you haven't heard of. You look at the covers, you get to discover new things, you get to discover these great B movies, awesome character actors. But I believe it was probably on cable for me, and it might have been on USA.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. I know this particular cover art was pretty formidable for you, Jared. Is that right?
Yeah, this was a big one for me. And it's funny you brought that up because that was actually one of the things I wanted to touch on as we got into the episode was that we were all video store kids, relatively close in age, spent a lot of time in the video stores. And like, I remember when I first started to feel fearless enough to venture into the horror section of the video store. And it was a transition from oh, we go to the video store, I'm going to go to like the kids section. And then stuff would start to catch my eye and I would be kind of like, I wonder what that one's all about. And early on, the first VHS box set, and I was actually going to bring this up as like a talking point for you guys too. The first VHS box set art that I remember seeing was for Friday the 13th, part 5, A New Beginning,
Oh, okay.
and which is a weird cover because it's not even a Jason mask. It's just like a nondescript white goalie mask, backlit with pink lighting coming through the eyes. And I just remember thinking like, that's got to be the scariest movie ever made. And then on the back, it has, a synopsis. It has a picture of Roy. I was too young to know that it was Roy, but, and then there's a picture of the guy Junior with the cleaver about to go into his neck. If you remember that memorable death when he's on the motorcycle. And I remember thinking like, wow, if these pictures are any indication, again, this is going to be the scariest movie ever made. And I was really fascinated by VHS box art, and Dolls was one of them where I feel like similarly to Child's Play around the same time, I saw the box and I went, nope, I'm not ready for that one yet. I haven't graduated to that one yet. It was something about, this seemingly innocuous, innocent thing, but then holding the two eyeballs up. I just remember thinking like, I'm not ready for that. That's going to be way too terrifying for me.
Yeah.
And so it was probably a few years later. I think I ended up renting it. I could have seen it on USA Up All Night at some point, or USA just on cable, but like I rented it, I'm gonna say sometime around 1990 or 91. I finally, but it was one of the 4 or 5 VHS boxes that really spoke to me. And so we can do this now as opposed to later, and I'll pose the question to both of you. But like when those early formative years of you when you were walking around, like Heather, I'll go to you first. Like what were some of the things you gravitated towards that kind of opened your mind to all of the weird shit that was out there?
Well, growing up, I was very scared of horror and rubber masks. And then when we would sit in elementary school, I was hanging out with a bunch of metalheads and D&D guys, and they said that I have to get over my fear of horror. I just need to watch these movies because that's what we wanted to talk about at the lunch table, horror movies and then crack monster party and all that great stuff. So
Mhm.
I feel at some point in my life that I was tortured enough that when I watched Friday the 13th part 5, I deeply identified with Jason Voorhees, and that was a turning point in my life to really loving horror. Because when people go like, well, Heather, why do you love horror? It's not because it's scary, it's because horror is always about the other. Whether we lose, win, whether the film's name is Godzilla or not, it's all about us with that great Halloween imagery. The first box, which is funny because this is also when Jared, you brought up your dolls, is that for me it was the midnight video, the gourmet chef from hell, and I was so frightened of the big box with it had the skeleton with top hat logo on it. It was in the section where they had all the Elvira's like Cyclops, which was another disturbing cover,
Mhm.
and then we had horrible painting of a guy's melted face inside of a microwave. Completely could not handle that cover or never want to rent it. 100 years later, Kevin Barry and I, aka Crichton from Gula Gogo, we were on Long Island. We were renting VHSs, I think at 9/11 video, and we watched it. And it's a fucking comedy. I thought it was like so, and the same thing with Dolls, because Dolls comes in at like I'm a weird doll and I have my eyes out of my head, when really there's a sweetness to it, and it's not really that brutal, and it's a lovely story, and it has a lot of themes of Toy Story before even Toy Story came around.
Yeah, and the gourmet zombie chef from hell that has, I believe, like a loose eyeball also on the cover. It's like the arm, the severed arm with the cleaver sticking up. And I'm pretty sure that it's on a cutting board, and I'm pretty sure there's like a loose eyeball in there too. So that was an aesthetic
Oh,
that people were really
the
going for.
so that is one that I didn't see growing up. For me, it was the painted cover.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The painted cover disturbed me. But then when I know what one you're talking about as well, because if something frightens you, you're like, I need to know everything about it. But yeah, I can even drop it in the comments so you folks can see it. That, and speaking of eyes, the Evil Dead 2 poster. Because I was very scared
Oh,
as
Yeah.
a
that
child,
was a
and it's
scary one. Yep.
eyes following you. I was not a fan of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but in addition to dolls, for me, two of them, and that's funny because the cover art is very similar for these two movies, although they're not in the same franchise. One that I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm ready to watch that was Fright Night. And then the other was Return of the Living Dead Part 2, which has really similar artwork to the cover of Fright Night. It's like
Mm.
it's got that sort of like apparition that almost looks like a tornado above the houses, and they both have them and they're similar. Steve, I know you have talked about how much the Child's Play 3 billboard scarred you, but when you
Yes.
first made it into the video store and braved the walk down the aisle, what were some of the ones that you were drawn to?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the Child's Play 3 thing because similarly, like, yeah, you come back to a movie that traumatized you and find it's a comedy. Like I come back to Child's Play 3 and like this is my least favorite of the entire Child's Play franchise. It's just kind of like a nothing movie. But yeah, I have a really strong memory of a movie called Blue Monkey that I've never seen. I've never found it anywhere else. It looked like it was like a giant bug
Hmm.
attacking a woman in a nurse's outfit. Whatever reason, that one really stuck with me. Rawhead Rex really stuck with me, and that wasn't even like the cool poster with the kind of the lightning behind him or anything. It was just the one of his eyes with sort of the silhouette of Rawhead Rex in the foreground. So um Definitely came across that one. I remember Wes
Mhm.
Craven's Shocker really stuck with me. I really wanted to see that one. That turned out to be a pretty fun flick. And Monkey Shines, another one
Monkey Shines was one for me too.
is that a Romero, I think? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and that's another absolutely wild movie. So a lot of ape-like eyes for whatever reason were really popping out for me.
Well, speaking of eyes popping out, Steve, why don't you give us some stats about the movie we're talking about today?
Well, I was going to
Why
tell you when
don't
back up
I?
is that I hallucinated the wrong VHS cover. It was actually Midnight Video's Microwave Massacre.
Microwave
Oh, Microwave
Massacre.
Massacre.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
yeah,
know that
yeah.
it
artwork.
was that VHS cover. I've
Yeah,
actually never
okay.
seen Gourmet Zombie Chef from Hell, but I'm aware of that cover. But that's
Nice.
the one. Midnight Video, Microwave Massacre, completely disturbing cover, and a comedy. How
Yeah.
dare? How dare?
Well, Dolls was released April 27th, 1987. It's directed by Stuart Gordon and written by Ed Neha, and it stars Stephen Lee, Carrie Lorraine, Guy Rolfe, Hilary Mason, Ian Patrick Williams, Carolyn Purdy Gordon, Cassie Stewart, and Bunty Bailey. So yeah, a lot of my notes were kind of out of sequence because we've had to push the Dolls episode a couple different times just for various reasons. Like the schedule kind of got rearranged a lot. So I took my initial batch of notes pretty early on. So a lot of my early notes were just like Stuart Gordon was born in blah 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 blah. So it was,
I
and
think the
And
we've
most
like,
important thing about the movie is that Ed Naha, who wrote it, is from Jersey, Linden, New Jersey, and Stephen Lee,
oh,
who is from Inglewood, New Jersey. So I feel
okay.
that there's also maybe I saw that when I was young that I knew that there was some Jersey pride in
There's
this film.
some strong Jersey representation in this movie. Good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, this was a movie that came together like so many Charles Band productions with a poster and an advertising campaign, and then you build the movie around that once it sells. This was a classic example of that. Charles Band had been working with Ed Neha a little bit on. He wrote Trolls. He would go on to write Spellcaster, things like that. So he brought him in to work on this one. And Ed Neha and Stuart Gordon were working together for the first time on this. And while they were working on this movie, they started developing a script I think it was going to be called The Teeny Tinies or something like that, or The Teeny Weenies. That
of
wound up
course.
being the basis for the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which of course Stuart Gordon would write and produce a couple of years after this. Ed Neha would go on to be the showrunner on the TV show version of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids that lasted for a couple seasons. Um, yeah, but like many movies, this came together very suddenly, very abruptly. Uh, Charlie Band offered this to Stuart Gordon while he was kind of waiting for funding for From Beyond to get off the ground. You know, that was supposed to be his
Well,
follow-up.
the word offer is that's an interesting word choice because
Yeah, more
when you
foisted.
read,
Yeah.
yeah, when you read Naked Theater and Uncensored Horror or watch some of the supplemental features of this movie, it very much like Brian Usna and Stuart Gordon were like, "Hey, Reanimator's doing really well. Let's take, From Beyond and adapt that." And then they ended up, get sharing some quarters then with Charles Band and Empire. And this was right when the studio in Rome was built. And so it was like, all right, well, let's get this rolling. And then Charlie Band just kind of said to them, like, well, first you're gonna do this movie. It's I've got this poster called The Doll.
Hmm.
Very cool artwork, by the way, on the poster for The Doll. And then he was like, don't worry, like just work on this simultaneously. This will be an easy
Hmm.
one for you. You can bang this thing out in a couple of weeks and not think about it again. And then, after that, we can put some more emphasis on From Beyond. And that was really the bargaining chip for getting Stuart Gordon to agree to make the movie. Although the couple of weeks didn't really pan out that way. And the
Yeah.
shoot went long, and Albert Band then ended up going to Rome to be there, and sort of as a helping hand slash to oversee the production and kind of come in wherever they can cut corners. But my understanding from reading about it was that he wasn't that intrusive, and that he
No.
actually ended up being really friendly. And Stuart Gordon and Brian Usna were both like kind of afraid that they were going to have to cut a lot of stuff to get things done faster. And he, as a director himself, was understanding like, no, these are important scenes, keep them in, do what you have to do. We'll get this thing done. And I enjoy the fact that those two movies were made essentially at the same time, and I mean, From Beyond ended up being fast tracked after that and released before this movie,
Right.
because as we know, this movie had to get some really fun Dave Allen stop motion in there.
Oh, and thank God they did. I'm glad they went back, and I'm glad they changed up the title too. We all know the legendary pitch story. They had written the doll on a whiteboard, and then James Cameron walked in, added an S, and
And a
then drew a
dollar sign.
drew a line through it, and then of course Justin Timberlake came in and erased the because it's cleaner, and then we have a movie. It's ready to go. Famous Hollywood insider business here. Yeah. But no, I am so glad that they tacked on the additional Dave Allen stop motion work, because there's a nice mix here of like practical puppets and like a little animatronics and then some stop motion stuff. And the stop motion really stands out above all the rest of them. Like I said, this is a movie that I've really grown to like and appreciate. I've only seen this. I saw this for the first time like maybe 3 years ago, so it's still a fairly recent movie for me. But I've really come
Did
to
you
appreciate it.
struggle with your affection because of the love of Reanimator? I was talking to my friend about that, and he also wants to give the film a second chance because I love
Yeah,
it so much. But it's like, but it's so different. I guess it depends on how much you loved Reanimator and you were
I think,
expecting
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I think that
And I
is
saw
because
everything out of
that's
order. I literally saw everything out of order growing up. I like
oh
the
yeah.
Chainsaw series. I saw 2, 3, and then 1. It's crazy.
I was the same way. Yeah. My parents did not really care about like sequential order for the movies they would watch. So, like, I think I saw Back to the Future 3 first, and then was confused that there weren't cowboys in the rest of the series after that. So yeah, I did
I
that a
watched
lot. But
Texas Chainsaw 1 and I was like, where's the Oingo Boingo? That's what I wanted to know, because I think I saw Texas Chainsaw 2 first also. A
yeah.
movie that I never get tired of watching, by the way.
It is the
Weirdly,
I
best.
that's
If you
like
ever find someone who wants to run a 35, I have a 35 print of Chainsaw 2.
Well, I'm sure we will have no problem finding someone to take you up on that.
There you
I've
go.
been making some friends with some people who do repertory screenings and stuff, and a lot of them pride themselves on playing 35. And so,
yeah.
yeah, that would be amazing because that would be so much fun to see. I think the last time I saw it was on 35 actually, and I think that was at Nighthawk, or maybe it was at Alamo. It was at
It
one
was
of
at Alamo. It played Alamo because I was going to intro it, but then
ah
the sacrifice game, I had you have to travel with the film festival to support the film. So I was actually in LA at that time at Alamo Draft House
Oh,
presenting
nice.
sacrifice game with producers Albert and film and Miss Wexler.
Hmm.
amazing. Yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
it
but
has something to do with that, with your relationship with Reanimator and From Beyond,
yeah.
because I think there's an interesting dichotomy in this movie where there's a lot of really sophisticated effects work and stop motion work that has to go into it, but it feels so much smaller concept than the Lovecraft stuff that's being adapted. It's almost just like, well, it's a fairy tale, and if you're an old curmudgeon, dolls will kill you. And if you're young at heart, dolls will salvage you. And there's some Hansel and Gretel thrown in there for good measure. And so I feel like there's these really wild Lovecraftian concepts that you can latch onto in Reanimator and From Beyond that maybe you can't with this one.
Well, you'd
You have
also have to think about the tone, right?
right.
Because the tone
Yeah.
is different in both of them, and it'd be interesting to explore that and to
Because
compare.
it is like slyly comedic. Well, all of Stuart Gordon's films, I would argue, except maybe Castle Freak, are have a comedic edge to them. Like Reanimator definitely does. From Beyond is definitely a funny movie, and I think this is a funny movie in a lot of ways
And even the
too.
Pit and the Pendulum
Even The Pit and the Pendulum,
I
has
but it
more.
love
just
that's another unsung hero. I
oh
love
yeah.
that movie so much.
It's
That
really
movie's
good.
a masterpiece.
Just the opening sequence of them exhuming a skeleton and then flogging it like that's going to accomplish anything is so darkly funny and kind of sets the whole
Classic,
tone for that movie.
classic. I would love to see a screening of that at a repertory theater
Oh
because
yeah.
And
people need
maybe
to see.
yeah,
Right?
oh yeah. But maybe that's the issue I run into with this one, where the tone feels a little bit more like a twisted kids film which is not really something that's ever super worked for me. I also a little bit struggle with
I
dark
feel in the
fairy tale.
horror
Just
world in general, the
yeah,
cute horror film, the adorable horror film clashes with sort of like a classic horror fan. Because in my heart,
yeah,
I find it very endearing. I'm a monster kid, and a new term that you guys coined. I'm also a video store kid and a
yeah.
monster kid, and I have great endearingness towards monsters and creatures and killer dolls. I still have all my little creatures and stuff like that that I grew up with. And I love things like Transylvania Twist and Friday the 14th Strikes Back, even
Yeah.
Friday the 14th. So, but a lot of horror fans do not like that because they want something that's scary and gory. And I feel the way that I approach horror and what I like about horror, as a monster myself, is I do love a cute horror film because that's how I see them. Regardless of what Jason Voorhees is doing in part 7, I'm really
Right.
endeared to him.
Yeah, you're always
Yeah.
trying to make people
Barclays.
watch
Oh, he's
Student
also from
Bodies. It's
Jersey.
weird.
He's a Jersey boy.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I think I'm softening a little bit on that, and maybe it was going into it the first time, just having those Stuart Gordon-y expectations and finding this is a very different tone and a very different beast than a lot of the stuff I really kind of came to associate with Stuart Gordon. But that's actually okay because I mean I had the same reaction with Robot Jocks the first time too, which is just a absolutely wildly different thing for Stuart Gordon to be doing. And now I've really come to enjoy that movie.
I
But
mean,
you
I
know,
would
like
watch that with Starship Troopers. I think there's a similar
yeah.
tone in each.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
that's a
Or
fun
we've
double
we
feature.
we even said that's a great double feature with Pacific Rim, where you're just kind of seeing sort of the before and after,
And
of
people struggled with that movie, and it's like that
yeah,
movie brought us giant monsters and robots, and that's what I was there for. The same thing with
absolutely.
Alien versus Predators. Regardless of the quality of the film, let me tell you, it delivers on its
And
title.
which is why Alien versus Predator Requiem sucks ass because you can't actually see any of the Alien versus Predator action,
I
and
need to see a lot of monster.
yeah,
Monster.
exactly. I want some slime like flying around if that's going to happen. Yeah, no, and that first AVP definitely does deliver on that. Yeah, and I think that obviously this movie delivers on its very modest premise. We have a bunch of killer dolls and they rip out eyeballs as they do on the cover art. And sounds like Brian Yuzna was sort of the
Well, they
one who
don't.
pushed
Well,
for a
think
little
about
bit
it.
of a harder horror edge. To then that's he was the one who wanted to include the zombies inside the dolls when they cracked open and things like that. So it sounds like he was the one who kind of pushed for more the creature featurey vibe.
Mm.
I felt that what are the dolls against? They're against bad parents. They're
Yeah,
against people who would take advantage of them when they're very sweet and harmless and doing nothing. And
yeah,
they are very big fans of imagination and play and still keeping your childhood alive, which is like a lot of us anyway. I mean, we're all
yeah.
creative, we're all playful. We all sleep with our Michael Myers stuffed friends.
Yeah,
I like to
I've got
imagine it's
that
kind of like a
Halloween.
wrestling buddy,
Yeah,
like remember those old Hulk
exactly.
Hogan
I
ones they
have
used to
them right
make?
over
Like,
here. I
you
have
have them?
Tommy Wrestling Buddy and
Ah!
Mickey Leatherface 2 Wrestling Buddy right
Oh,
on the couch.
that's amazing. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I think I had a Macho Man maybe of those wrestling buddies. I was not a
I definitely have one of
Hulkamaniac. I
the
was not a Hulkamaniac. I was always into I was into the heels. Like
yeah, I think I
not that
had like a
Macho Man was a
Sting
heel.
or maybe a Road Warrior. I don't
Like
remember. I think they had a face paint though.
when the mega powers collided, Hulk Hogan obviously put Macho Man over and he was a face, but like once there were like legitimate heel turns by people, those are the people I love. When I was a kid, I loved Roddy Piper
Of course.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and then I loved Shawn Michaels um as a teenager for that reason. I was always
Yeah.
drawn to so I never had a Hulk Hogan stuffed animal because I didn't want to say my prayers or eat my vitamins.
Yeah.
You wanted to
Yeah,
be
probably the same
rowdy
reason
and
you like
rude.
Mr. T.
Exactly.
But we do get a couple of old full moon favorites coming back here. I wanted to shout out, Stephen Lee, of course, has appeared in many full moon features. He was the antagonist in the pre-Hysteria movie. So he's popped up around. He unfortunately died in 2014, But everyone speaks very highly of him in the behind the scenes doc that Heather was involved with making, and a really good behind the scenes documentary on this Arrow DVD box set, as is all of the movies, are really exceptionally well curated. So yeah, we also have Guy Rolfe and Hilary Mason showing up as the older couple here. Guy Rolfe, of course, took on the role of Toulon in Puppet Master 3, and we gave really high marks to his performance in that one because he kind of really helps elevate that film and redefines the entire character for the rest of the series in a very interesting way. Hilary Mason showed up in Meridian, a couple other movies like that. And
Hillary Mason, for me, she'll always be the blind psychic from Don't Look Now.
yes,
Guy
oh my
Rolfe is
God.
Mr. Sardonicus.
And
Right,
Mr.
yes, he
Sardonicus.
is.
Yep.
And that's the beginning, like when we watch these movies, and I know I did the Al Adamson doc for David over at Severin. These guys find our beautiful heroes, and Glass Eye still does it, and everybody, and we like want to bring them back. And the idea that Guy would take over for William Hickey's character is to me incredibly magical, because it's like not only are we bringing our favorites back from the movies that they do, it's like we're reintroducing them back into the genre with us.
Yeah,
the genre
absolutely.
has a place for old heroes.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
We talked
Absolutely.
about that briefly. I'm trying to remember which episode it was in, but we said something similar, the sentiment of that. It's really nice to watch people reinvent themselves as character actors and players in genre movies later in their careers. And so like you're saying, like I feel like it's such a nice way for people to come in, to know they can get work, and even to be able to create, another character that will stay with them until they're, no longer acting or no longer living. And the horror, especially as a genre, has just been so good for a lot of these older actors to have this second wind and really almost like a second career. I forget who exactly we were talking about and what episode it was in, but we had basically the same sentiment. And it's amazing that, yeah, Guy Rolfe, I mean, because we're talking Puppet Master 3 is about 5 years after this movie. And
The best puppet master, by the way.
Yeah, no, we agree. Yeah,
we
we're right
wholeheartedly
there with
agree
you.
with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he would continue the role for a couple of movies after that as well, But again, he just brings like I just love nothing more than like a classically trained urbane British character actor who just appears in the goofiest trash, just like Guy Rolfe, and with like
Are you talking
with,
about the best horror movies ever made?
Exactly. I'm talking about like your David Warners, your Christopher Lees, like all of the your Peter Cushings. Like I just love that these are guys who could absolutely be crushing as like King Lear at the Globe or something like that, and instead they're playing Mr. Sardonicus, or they're playing Andre Toulon, the Puppet Master, and they're committing every bit as much as you would to one of those like high class stage performances.
Yeah, Donald
That's
Pleasance
just
and Roddy
Donald
McDowell,
Pleasance.
they had those late career turns.
Absolutely. Even Malcolm McDowell is always, obviously he's a little bit more iconoclastic than like the sort of stuffy British character actor, but I love that when they fully commit to sleaze, to lower rent budgets, and to these kind of stock characters, and they just really breathe a lot of life into them.
Totally.
And
I
I think
felt
that's
very sad while doing the Waxworks 1 and 2 set is that David Warner did not want to talk about Waxwork.
really.
I carry that sadness in my heart. Also, because like when we're talking about older actors, you want to get them before they go to heaven. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
the thing. I remember trying to set up an interview with Rutger Hauer for Split Second, and everything was perfect. And I got an email from his agents and managers that he's not available, and it's because he passed away. So we were very close to getting him to talk about Split Second, which is another one of I love that movie so much.
That movie is such a delight. Yeah, that movie's really fun.
So capturing these stories are very critical when you can.
Yeah. No,
That's
100%.
100%. We haven't really, some of our guests have been content creators and stuff like that, but we've had a few guests who have been, industry people, producers or writers and directors. And so there's a different aspect, I think, to the introspection that they bring into it, because it's like you want to have these conversations and make these connections and be able to create these stories, which not everyone gets the opportunity to. And you're absolutely right. I think if it's someone who you admire and it's someone you want to reach out to, like probably sooner than later would be the time to do that.
But even
Mhm.
outside of it, what I feel that the perspective I take on my work and my team that works with me is that it's truly of archiving. It's like the idea is that you can have the idea of criterion, which is sort of like the gated look at genre cinema, any kind of cinema, noir, world cinema. But really, I felt when I did a lot of work with Kino and I covered all types of movie, because that's truly what
Yeah.
cinema is. Cinema is Alien Deadly Spawn, last year in Maidaba, which I did work on, Electrical Light and Blue. It's all of this. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to think about it. So for me, getting someone David Warner's story about waxwork was so incredible, because like wanting to get it. It wasn't even because I wanted to connect with him, or he's up in age. It was more like he has a critical story to tell about making this movie.
Oh,
I
totally.
mean, that's kind of the fun thing I've discovered about doing this show is that a lot of these movies that we're talking about, you can look through the archives and see that we're probably talking about them in more we're probably spending more time talking about some of these movies than anybody has in a recorded form, so in a small degree we get to sort of document these movies that might otherwise fall through the cracks because they had a different distribution platform, or they were just smaller scale, smaller budget, smaller box office, but
Also
they're
because
still absolutely worthy.
when we were younger, we had Fangoria. So this is how I
Yeah.
found my VHS. Fangoria, anything Fangoria suggested, I would try to find. And then
Yeah.
it was Fangoria's video guide, which was like, I still have it, the one with Jason on the cover and it's blue.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Worn out, worn out. But for me, a lot of people looked at the Psychotronic.
Yep, that
I
was me.
Phantom of the Movie Guide. That is what I used to find stuff. That's why, like, there was a 14-year-old girl circling ninth configuration and renting it at a video store. That was me. It's like, I love all these character actors. I need to see this movie. And I was very lucky when I was working with David to do the, I think it's Second Sight, the disc of ninth configuration with him. And we went
Oh,
to William
wow.
Peter Blatty's house, and I never asked for autographs, but it's like, will you please sign my ninth configuration book? And we talked about faith and loss and the death of his son.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
Yes. So I think that was his last on camera interview. And then his last commentary was with Mike for our Exorcist 3 disc.
See, and that's why it's so valuable to be like digging in, because that's a movie. Yeah, that's a perfect example of a movie that might have otherwise fallen through the cracks if like a few people didn't sort of bang the drum for
No,
it.
no, no,
And it's a
Steve, there are a ton. You can't throw a rock without hitting a podcast that has done an hour on test tube teens from the year 2000.
And also because
yeah.
everything's out in the world. So like back in this time, right, when we have our Fangorias on our video stores, there was a limit, and we were sort of like horror monks. We had to do our research. My father would take me to like 3 video stores to find the uncut letterbox version of Evil Dead 2. Now
Yeah.
there's so much information out there. Where do you even start? And I think even people, who produce and market like myself, we talk about it. It's like, where are the curators and who are we following? When the Village Voice was around, anything that Jay Hoberman talked about, I knew it was something that I was watch. And his book, Midnight Movies, was very influential on my writing style when I did journalism, and his perspective on film. So it's his perspective on film, all the cult, all the midnight movies, and how he's talking about it. And then it was Steve Bassett's piece in Gore Zone with My Eyes Peeled, where I heard about Kenneth Anger and Stan Brakhage and Maya Duran. So you have like
Yeah.
bigger idea that we're both ghoulies, but there's like things on the outskirt which sort of like flow back and forth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we've been
absolutely. It's
able
the
to
ripple
mention
effect.
stuff like that. It's like we've been able to to reference things on this show, and I hope that resonates. No Stuart Gordon pun intended there, with our listeners. Recognizing like, oh, these guys have been on the fringe in some capacity and have sought out these type of texts. I want to talk a little bit about some more of the cast of this movie. So we talked in our Cellar Dweller episode, and this movie to me has a lot of parallels with Cellar Dweller. I
I
think
think
it
so.
looks very similar.
Yeah.
And I think there's a mystical, um, sort of not spiritual, but like otherworldly element to it that is at least explained more in Dolls. Like I feel like the I don't want to the mysticism. I'm not going to call it science, but the mysticism
Yeah.
of Dolls, I think it makes a little bit more sense. With Cellar Dweller, there's such cool imagery and stuff happening, but it's sort of like I don't really understand the rules of the universe of what brings out the Cellar Dweller, but it's like
Right.
the fairy tale aspect of Dolls helps, but uh, we talked in that episode about we made a comparison to the Take on Me video by Aha, and now we have the star of the Take on Me video by Aha, Bunty Bailey, who was married to, I believe, the singer from Aha at the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really fun to see her here in this movie. She's a ton of fun, and she's just like, I mean, it's the mid 80s, so she's dressed exactly like Madonna, which is fun down
Yeah,
to the
she's got a
hairstyle
really
and everything.
dramatic makeup
I'm
look. Yeah,
always
it's a little bit
very
it's definitely a lot of
I was gonna say I am always jealous that when we see punk rockers in the 80s because their look is so special. And it's like, oh
it
my
really
God,
is.
it's a time capsule. And we all look at it. We want to aspire to it. And a lot of stuff we did with the Ranger is to find a look that was iconic, but also authentic. Because I
Yeah.
tell people it's like Trauma got it wrong, but punk rockers love it. And we've actually adopted Trauma punk style into our.
Yes.
So I feel like when I'm wearing my chain, like no one wore that many chains, but I feel when I wear my chains around my neck, that's like Suicide and Return of the Living Dead. When I wear my neon toxic stuff, that's like a trauma punk look.
Hmm.
I feel there's a great. So I love that those two girls and their outfits.
Well, I hope next time I see you, Heather, that you're rocking your Isabel look.
Yes.
I mean, Brian Yuzna clearly was very like charmed by these two actresses, Bunty Bailey and Cassie Stewart, because he just kept talking about, oh, it's a shame we only had them for like a couple days. They were so much fun. They had all these wild stories, and were just kind of like they had sort of a party girl energy, but they were very like positive and fun to be around, and they had great stories. I think they're
Or
fun in
was
this movie.
Stuart Gordon a punk rocker?
I definitely could see Stuart Gordon being a punk rocker. I mean,
Because that's what.
he's like
Yeah.
his theater work was like real fucking punk rock, actually.
Oh
Like it really
yes.
was. Like he
And
would.
Blondie said that Cronenberg was a punk rocker. So
Oh yeah. Oh, I don't doubt that at all. Yeah.
Believe it.
in his heart.
He's in the Canadian hardcore scene, which yeah.
I love DOA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and yeah, they were both really fun. I don't know if the main little girl actress, Carrie Lorraine, did she go on to do much else?
No, and you know what's funny? This is a Mandela effect thing that I had for a very long time, which is that in my brain, after I saw this movie for the first time 30 however many years ago, I took it that this girl was someone who went on to be in a lot of other notable movies, and I just supplanted her, I think, into different things. And maybe even not maybe not even movies. Maybe it was like, oh, she did one or two episodes of sitcoms, but for a long time. No, she left acting not too long after this. And really the only other thing that I could have possibly saw her in, according to her IMDb, was like a one episode guest spot in an episode of Alf. And
Yeah,
like
and I
there's
think
something about
she's
her.
background on like Poltergeist too. She's a defense
Poltergeist
attorney
2.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it seems
Yeah.
like
So
she landed on her feet.
I always thought, and even I think the maybe not for the show, but the last time I independently went to watch Dolls, which was maybe like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, oh, it's that girl. And then looking at her IMDb and going, wait, how do I know her besides this movie? Like I
Yeah.
genuinely felt like, because like you look at Miko Hughes, right? So like you have Miko
Yeah.
Hughes in Pet Cemetery and then in New Nightmare, but he also was in a ton of sitcoms and stuff and Kindergarten Cop. And he popped up, and she had that same effect where I was thinking she had the same similar child actor career trajectory, but I was 100% wrong.
Yeah, I mean, she's just definitely one of the. She has that kind of face too. Like she looks familiar. She looks like you would have seen her in a lot of different things. But yeah, outside of that
Yeah.
episode of Alf, it's probably not very likely. Or if she was your lawyer, yeah, she might have been your lawyer, and she just looks familiar that
I mean,
way.
I often need a defense attorney, so you'll have to be more specific, please, sir.
Especially in California, yeah, yeah, where you regularly frequent. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, like yeah, we said the movie really has a good tone of this dark fairy tale, which I think is pretty charming. I mean, my favorite part, of course, is the early scene where the little girl is hallucinating her teddy bear coming to life and mauling her mean stepmother, which I think sets a tone pretty nicely for this movie and is really funny.
I love the design of sort of like the grizzly bear underneath, and
Hmm.
then she gets really mad at him, and it's like, and he just hunches his shoulder. It's like, what do you
Yeah.
want from me?
Yeah, yeah, he's got a real "it's a living" moment.
And I think that's all of Beekler's work.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Yeah, no, there is kind of a nice like super group of special effects artists coming together for this movie, and I think it largely pays off. I think my big complaint about the dolls is that there isn't like a clear. This is again totally Monday morning quarterbacking this thing, but like I kind of wish there was a clear like standout leader doll or a doll that had a more distinct design. Like these don't really look like any kind of particular doll. They just look like a generic doll,
You're
like
looking
they're
for
a
a
porcelain doll.
stripe, if you will.
I'm looking for a stripe for a pinhead, for somebody who kind of distinguishes themselves in the crew, like that you would start building the sequel off of them.
It
And the
feels
80s
like
were just over 80s horror was just overloaded with that idea and that trope, I would have loved to
Yeah.
see it here.
I like that they were just a horde, and each one of them had their own personality, and there seemed
Yeah.
to be like groups and factions. It was like dolls. It's good.
Yeah. 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 I would like to see like that
And there was no
segmenting a
Mo
little
to
bit more.
be the leader, so I understand.
No, no. Mo's their leader.
But
Uh
they one thing I really like though about I guess this kind of goes against what you're I understand what you're saying, Steve, but I guess in
mm,
defense of the fact that it is just this horde of dolls is like you get these moments where it cuts to seemingly innocuous dolls and then their faces change and they
right.
react to things, and I feel like they're supposed to be sort of nondescript
Yeah.
first, and then they take on some
Well, there's a
characteristics.
certain kind of Victorian doll style, which everyone
Yeah.
like ever since or maybe before considers that a horror trope. The
Oh
porcelain face
yeah.
doll with the little dress, and if you go to a bed and breakfast, they're there. You know they're going to kill you.
Well, it's because they're
Yeah.
terrifying. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's why. But I don't know. I mean, maybe you know this, and I could look it up, but I'd rather just throw the question out there. Is these are very much Victorian dolls, but is a are Punch and Judy Victorian dolls too,
Oh,
or are
they're
they from
much older than
way much
that.
older than that, right?
Yeah, that's a classical like they're like kind of early puppetry, like a classical tradition from like
Got it.
medieval times, I think. Yeah. But
Because I was gonna
yeah,
say he's the one given the most emphasis in terms of like
yeah,
what kind of doll he is, and does he one thing these dolls do well is take a sledgehammer to the face.
they sure do. They sure do. It's an
And
admirable
our
quality.
witchy and our witchy characters, it's very interesting at the end that they're not mad at him. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, now you're going to be a doll. It's like, and
Yeah.
so Em is talking to him as how Mr. Punch is naughty. Of course, that's why this guy is acting that way, because he's Mr. Punch, which I
Oh
think is
yeah.
a very wonderful turn. This tone also reminds me of, because we're talking about this, we're talking about cellar dweller, and historically, I have not tracked a lot of YA horror, but it's out there. But I feel like
Uh-oh.
when we watch this, we would go on to watch Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps. And regardless of my ancient age, I did watch those.
Yes.
And like I'm like a monster kid, so I like to watch. You know what they are? They remind me of movies that you would play in the background of like a great Halloween party. Like all these things have like great Halloween
Yes.
party vibes. So it's never too scary, but it's certainly spooky and it's very fun and has some good images.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Dolls would be a ideal candidate for that kind of movie. Yeah, it's great for because yeah, it's got enough gore and enough clever special effects to satisfy like the horror fans, but it's also not overwhelmingly scary, so like younger horror fans can enjoy it too.
Yeah, you
Yes,
look back at
I
the
try not to
TV.
play Serbian films at my Halloween parties, but it
I
Yeah,
depends.
understand.
see,
I
weird,
understand the
weird. I do
appeal,
that every
but
time.
yeah, you gotta try. You can look
Yeah.
away. You can look away from. It's kind of. You're right, Heather. It's kind of the perfect Halloween party movie. It's like you can look away from it for a few minutes. You get the sense of what's going on. It's like, all right, dolls killing people, cool. Don't really need to know why. And then you look back and you see a cool stop motion effect, or you see a cool puppetry effect, or some good gore, or a striking visual. And that's why I really like this movie. I think it mostly works in that way. I mean, it's a breezy 77 minutes, like so many of these movies are.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But I love that because I think it moves and it's nice to see short movies. That's what I
Oh
like
no.
about it. Like you're watching it and it's adorable and you're in and out.
this show has made it virtually impossible for me to want to watch a movie that's over 2 hours.
I
Oh,
gotta say, Flower
tell me
Moon is
about it.
pretty good.
No, and
No, it
and
is,
and
and
there's
I
great stuff
I
out there. There's great stuff. It's
I
just
want
the
to catch
prospect.
Dune. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
the
the new
prospect of
Dunes.
a 2.5 to 3 hour long movie now. And I'm such a hypocrite because I'll be the first one to be like, oh well, Once Upon a Time in America needs to be 4 hours long, and you can't trim one frame from that movie. And 2001 needs to be as long as it is, and Mulholland Drive needs to be as long as it is, and the Last Emperor or Gandhi. Like, you can't alter those movies at all. You just have to have a better attention span. And here I am being like, all right, movie, we're at 80 minutes. Can we wrap it up?
Well, again, it's contextual, like I just rewatched Seven Samurai for the first time in a while, and that's absolutely a movie I'm fine with being 3.5 hours long. I think Dolls at 3.5 hours long would overstay its welcome in a big way. So, it's the story that needs to be told and the length that needs to be told.
Absolutely.
But it is, yeah, I do have that same block around like long movies where I have trouble motivating myself to commit that much of the day. And that's more an ADHD thing, I think, than anything else. But I'm getting there. I'm working on it.
So I take a
But
lot of
yeah.
nostalgia with this movie. I think it was one that connected with me when I did first get to rent it, more so than Monkey Shines. I think Monkey Shines is pretty good, but I still that the VHS cover really jumps out to me as one of the highlights of the era. I don't know if I feel that way about the movie. I feel like there is a baseline of Empire quality of what are considered to be like the cream of the crop in Empire, and it's your Reanimator, your From Beyond, and I think Dolls fits in there too. I would even say like Troll, which we haven't covered on an episode yet,
That's an
No.
incredible one too. And
but
watching it when I was
Yeah.
little, I'm always in Dolls has that too. And movies like Spasms has like the bladder effects, which I always find very disturbing. And the
Mm.
transformation of people into the pods and Troll when I was little, and that's definitely a USA movie. But so many monsters. Also for me, I don't need mythology. If I see a house with two old people in it and the dolls come to life, it's like that must be the realm of that world. And what I
Yeah.
thought watching it this time and having watched the series from, I feel that house is luring people there.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
when
no,
they
I
Yeah, I
think
think
that
there's a
when they just
quality to
pulled
it.
up and no one figures out how they get lost, but they keep winding up at this house.
It's the same thing
Also, a
that was
lot of those
happening in
dolls,
Deathbed, the Bed That Eats. Yeah. Yeah.
incredible masterpiece there.
From
And
that's the
maybe a
show
lot of those
about Prison
dolls
City.
were a lot of these people.
Yeah, I could see
I
it.
I think that's a fun layer to add to it also, because it's like you can add to the mythology within it. It's like the dolls are shown to have people inside of them under the porcelain. So then is that what this is? Is this a house that lures people to it? And then if you fail the test, you end up having to live as one of these dolls. Like, I think that's such a fun aspect that
Proto
isn't
Jigsaw,
necessarily.
Proto Saw
It is very
Yeah.
proto saw, you're right. And I
for
don't
the
know that
kids.
it's intentional, but it's a
Kids.
fun thing to add to it.
And think about that at the beginning is that they're just in a scene, they're dealing with the kid losing his teddy bear. And when they turn around, they see a big house, which
Oh
probably
yeah.
meant that big house was not there.
Mm,
Okay,
okay.
all right, I could see it.
Yeah.
These are just things that I pick up. These are my own fanfics and conspiracy theories around the movie Dolls.
Well,
We
Heather,
all have our headcanons,
that's
yeah.
timely because conspiracy theories and stuff like that are, that and fanfic, that's been missing from our show to this point. So I'm glad you're bringing it because it's like it's another aspect now to look at with Dolls because I will watch this movie again. I pop this one on from time to time. It's like it's kind of a comfort watch for me, or it's getting in that realm because it is so short and it is so breezy, and you can pop it on in the background. And if you're doing something else and you're like, oh, here's the part where Isabel's getting dragged, her face dragged into the wall over and over again, which is such a fun visual, and a cool like little low to the ground dolly shot of Bunty Bailey's stunt double getting pulled, presumably a stunt double. I mean, this is a low budget movie, but um, I think I will revisit it. And now I think the next time I watch this movie, which might be, I don't know, a year or two maybe from now, I'm going to think about that. And I'm going to think like, okay, I'm going to watch it as if it is canon, that the house
Yeah.
allures people in, and see if that makes certain little aspects of it play differently than it would have otherwise. So I look forward to that the next time I pop this guy on. But Steve and I recently did a ranking because we realized a couple of episodes ago that we had hit 50 movies in the Empire and Full Moon and Charles Band and Torchlight and Moonbeam umbrella. And so we did a bonus episode where we ranked all 50 of the movies that we had covered so far. And we had a similar bottom of the list and a similar top of the list. And then really our like 7 to 10s is where we started to really deviate. And then in the middle, it was a little more of a discrepancy. But um, yeah, I mean, I will come out and say that this will most likely push something out of my top 10.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
All
have a
right.
lot of affection for this movie, and I had a feeling coming in that it might be more than you have, Steve, for it. But like for me, like this is premium Empire and has all the hallmarks of everything about Empire movies that I love. And Empire has the, I guess, history on its side of having been so short-lived that it
Yeah.
didn't have a chance to live in this world of ultra low budget. It was sort of like getting these movies out low budget, doing gangbusters, hitting the video sales, and then the company went bankrupt. And
Right.
Full Moon is its a whole other business model. But I think
And
when
if we watch all the DVD extras and all the Blu-ray extras on that set, we get a good idea of why Empire died and
Mhm.
Full Moon came from its ashes.
Right. Yeah,
Well, it's
exactly.
because
There were a lot of
all of the stuff
complications
is in
there.
John Tarani's house. They couldn't find it
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
That was actually crazy because I know John loves robot docs, and when this job came to me, because Arrow was like, we need a lot of these done, and the ones that I produced, we did it all. We shot them all, posted them all, got them uploaded in 1 month. I think there was about 8 of them, and then the whole Dave Allen set, and that I feel very blessed that John had all this stuff in his house, and all the other jocks was in someone else's house that he knew. I think that's incredible. And I was friends with him.
Yeah.
There's another project that I'm working on with MPI that he also has a lot of paper materials for and research.
Oh, wow.
I feel very blessed to know John Charney, as we all are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was
Our
great.
listeners are too, because we could not have picked a person in the world who is more of the final source, on Robot Jock's material. Is the end all be all, of Robot Jock's conversation, I think. And so that
Yeah.
episode was so much fun to record. But yeah, Heather, I just want to say, like, in the Arrow box set, all of the supplemental stuff, the box set is amazing, and we had so much fun watching these transfers in this presentation, and the book that came with it, and the artwork and everything. But one of the things to me that really jumps out is the features and the attention and care given to what are sort of kind of forgotten movies, and you produced a lot of the supplemental features in that box set. And so we're thankful, that you were able to do, your job tracking some of this stuff down and making these things happen, because it's really a fantastic. And, your input on the box set, I think it's so important. And it's just I think it's available again. And so anybody who's been listening to the show or who tried to buy it once when it first came out, I'm pretty sure you can get your hands on it now, either the box itself or the stripped down version. But just worth owning for so many amazing features. I loved all of the featurettes. It just brings such a perspective to things like Arena and the Dungeon Master, because it was so cool to watch some of those features and then to talk to Jeffrey Byron in person and have him describe, stuff that we saw in those. So just yeah.
Well, the one about Arena, I think, is very hilarious. The guy is so candid. It's great.
Is it Danny
He's so
Bilson?
good. Danny Bilson
Yeah.
was, yeah, I thought he was awesome.
Yeah, so that was very funny. And then I love putting together the Dave Allen piece because I'm doing this for so many years, for 10 years. Like I knew a lot of the FX guys that worked on it. I remember meeting John Vincent over in Rochester, and he worked directly with Dave Allen and all these other guys. But the great get, because in my life, I need to like Pokemon catch them all the
Yeah.
Sure.
old ILM guys. So when we got Dennis Miernan, incredible.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
And he was so humble because it's like, oh, what do you want your lower third to be? And he's like, oh, just visual effects artist.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's enough. Yeah. I mean,
and to us, he's like the most important person on earth. So, but true Fangorians, that's what we care about. I was going to post that about the Oscars. Horror movie fans, best FX, best VFX, and the technical awards. Those are the people who made all our movies.
Yes.
Those are the people who made all our movies.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've come to really love Dave Allen just over the course of doing this show, and all of the contributions that he makes. And I cannot wait to see Primevals. It's coming out very soon. Hopefully it's going to get a theatrical run here in Austin. I know there is going to be some Alamo screenings in LA if you're out there for that, but I'm assuming it's going to go a little more nationwide as well.
By the time this airs, this probably will have changed. I think it's going to end up in Austin and in New York.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be great. Well, I think that's about all I have to say on Dolls. Yeah, Heather, thank you so much for coming here and for lending your expertise and just your insights into this film. It was really awesome to talk to you about this. Where can people find your stuff, your socials, all the projects you're working on?
Well, I'm on Facebook, and my URL is Joe Spinell Lives.
Love it.
I love that.
It's true. I'm on Instagram as _ Heather Buckley, and then Black Mansion Films. And you could find me on Twitter. I'm there. I sometimes post on there just because I keep my old account up. But I think the best way to contact me, I think, is on Facebook, because I just post posters of Dr. Giggles, and you get all the people who worked on the films, fans, people sharing their VHS and their autographs. It just feels like a very cool horror bulletin board where everybody participates, and I just get to watch because it's like having live Fangoria.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It is amazing. And
so come to Joe Spinell Lives.
Yes. I'm sure that our listeners love Joe Spinell and love the URL Joe Spinell Lives. If you like what we do, jump on to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to the show. Drop us a 5-star rating and maybe a brief review if you feel so inclined. You can follow us on all kinds of social media. We're on Instagram at puppetmasters_castlefreaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jerry or Steve at Minotaur Matador. But we are not the only show that Steve needs to plug during this time. So Steve, people love listening to you, and where else can they find you?
Oh, thank you so much. You can find me on the show Cinema Arcade. That's cinema and arcade mashed together. That's the show where we are watching movies and then playing the video game adaptations of those movies to see how they compare, contrast, or differ. Lots of fun stuff coming up this month. I believe we're getting ready to tackle the Rocky series. Our timeline's a little out of order at the moment, but There
Is
are
there a Rocky video game that has Joe Spinell in it?
there might maybe in Rocky Legends. I don't know. I'll double check. They're
I
going
need
back.
screenshots if you come across them.
If I come across them, I will definitely share those.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
but I think there are games based on the original Rocky, Rocky Balboa from 2006, and the original Creed.
I mean,
So
he's
it
got to
gets
be in that
kind of a
first one,
nice
being a loan shark, right?
right. Yeah,
Or actually,
exactly.
no, he's like a mob boss. Rocky's a loan shark.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a beef punching mini game, I'm sure. We'll have to do that. But
Wasn't
yeah, so that
Spinell in the Godfather game?
oh fuck, he might be.
Mm.
Because they bring back a lot of people for the Godfather game. Not so much for those other movies
And
from that
as
era.
that goes into Godfather 2, his character becomes even more important. So I'm sure
Oh
he's
yeah.
probably floating around there. But Steve, go ahead and tell our listeners, what do we got lined up for next week?
Well, next week we have a movie that is new to me. I have not seen it, but this has a pretty good reputation, actually. It's a movie from 2000 called The Dead Hate the Living! Exclamation point. Great title. Great kind of like old school Hammer horror title. I know that's not really the vibe of this movie, but I do like I do like I just love a movie with an exclamation point in the title. I don't know. I bring in more punctuation. I think that's always funny.
Yeah, I feel like the
So we're gonna
only
be
thing
checking
that
that movie
movie's
out.
missing is an interrobang. Like
Oh
that's
man.
the only thing that would make it better. But we're getting into it's so funny. This happens every time. I always want to say late stage full moon. We're talking about a 24-year-old movie.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's post Paramount. I think maybe even post Kushner Lock. Maybe we're getting into the Tempe
I
years here.
believe, yes. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Because
But
Kushner Lock, I think, was only until like 97 or 98.
yeah, this is one I'm familiar with, but I'm looking forward to revisiting it because I'm
Yes.
familiar with it. I don't know it as well as the Head of the Family or anything like that, or from the era, but I do think we're in for a fun time. And so yeah, the dead hate the living! Exclamation mark.
Ah!
We'll be coming to
All
you
right.
guys next week.
Later, y'all.